Welcome, everybody, to Secret Sauce, the show where we unpack business tips, life hacks, and advice from industry leaders. I'm karly.iacono. Today, I am pleased to be joined by Tony Maris, the president and founder of Pinnacle Development. Welcome, Tony. How are you today?
Great, Karly. How are you? Great to see you.
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us. Great to see you as well.
Thanks for the invite.
For everyone listening, Pinnacle is a multi-state industrial, multifamily, and residential development company. So Tony comes at the business a little different than a lot of our retail connections. So we're really happy that you could be here, Tony, to kind of share your perspective on the market. So why don't we kick it off with the question on everyone's mind, which is volatility. How are you as a developer in multiple markets handling the current volatility?
Well, obviously, in March, no one saw this coming. I think this volatility came a lot faster than many people were expecting. And really, where we're starting off is we're staying the course. We have about 1,000 units, residential, multifamily in our pipeline right now, under development or in approvals stages, and we've got about 5 million square feet of warehouse and industrial ground under agreement that's going through the approvals. And starting off, we didn't buy the ground in a day. We're not going to build it or entitle it in a day. And really, for us, it's a matter of staying the course. We've been really fortunate that we've got good structure to our deals. But certainly in the near term, we've had some stuff that was ready to go to market, and people have asked to pull back and see where rates go, really. And that includes cap rates, which are expanding, interest rates, which are rising. And the real fortune that you're trying to tell right now is what are rates going to do relative to construction costs? Some of the supply chain stuff we've been experiencing has moderated. On the residential side, lumber has started to come back into something resembling a realistic number. Deliveries are starting to get a little bit better. We haven't seen the same thing on the industrial and warehouse side yet. Steel and concrete are still holding up, although bar joist availability is becoming more readily available. And really, for the stuff that's in the development timeline or pipeline, it really has to go back to supply chain issues. Very long lead times, tough to get stuff manufactured. Things like ductile iron, copper fittings, concrete structures are all longer lead times. A little bit more expensive, sometimes a lot more expensive. But we're just managing our way through it. We have good partners in our deals. Everybody's been patient and understanding. That's how we're kind of working past it.
So I want to unpack two parts of that. Let's start with the supply chain. Where are we today with your supply chain challenges compared to a year ago? I know you mentioned lumber was coming down, which is great. Just overall, are you seeing an easing, or is it still really tough? It's just maybe different materials in today's market.
It seems that just as soon as you pin one down, the next one slides out on you. Right. Ductile iron, we have a project that needs 18-inch ductile iron. We were looking at 9-week lead times last summer. They were now a 46 to 52-week lead time.
Crazy.
And like a better example is even transformers for residential subdivisions. They were 9-10 weeks lead time before. We secured 12 for a project we started, but we were told that our next shipment will be probably 48 weeks to 52 weeks out on a 600 lot subdivision. So you can imagine that's causing a little bit of consternation. And the like an odd thing that you wouldn't think of is the bases that all the transformers sit on are a 32-week lead time now. So the little plastic fiberglass base isn't here. So we're working, we'll work past that, concrete pads, and do some other things. So the things you took for granted, I'm learning I can't take for granted anymore, because you solve the big problem and like you can't find copper fittings for some of the projects we have. Just connect water lines. There's long lead times. You'll get them. But it's been an ever increasing challenge just to keep materials flowing and keep our contractors working. But we've been doing sometimes paying a little bit more. That's really been one of the upshots. Is in order to secure your place, you're prepaying for things. You're paying a little bit more. But in the grand scheme of things, we're keeping projects moving.
That was my next question. So aside from just the timeline, are you really feeling inflation on the building materials? Are costs jumping materially let's take out lumber and some of those that have just been bizarre for the last few years. But in general, are you starting to feel the inflation from the building construction cost side?
Yeah, I mean, for deals that are like finished lot deals or buildings that we're starting, we're probably up 20 to 30% on average, depending on overall,
Right.
with extended lead time. So it's affecting carry. We're good on loans. We're not worried about DSCRs or loan covenants. Or all the banks, I think, have recognized, no one else is going to get it faster than us. So we've been working with lenders and talking with our end users, some of our national home builders we supply lots to, on extending timeframes, and everybody's cooperating because they're facing the exact same pinch. So there's some, I guess, truth in the misery or delay loves company approach to this, but it's really been unlike '08, where everybody seemed to have run for the hills and everybody panicked a little bit more. This seems to be a little more measured, maybe because we've been through it at the start of COVID. I think everyone forgets that. What happened then? The stock market moved. Everyone thought the CMBS market was going to dry up. It didn't. Banks are still lending, unlike in '08. I think there's reason to have trepidation. I think there's reason to have concern, but I certainly don't think that we are looking anything like '08, because fundamentally the market is more structurally sound. The supply chain issues will abate as demand decreases, and I think we'll start getting a handle on this. But it's going to take a little bit. I mean, we're in a tough spot. We're not in a precarious spot, but we're in a tough spot.
Are you changing your underwriting for deals to try to how are you forecasting 12 months out with interest rates and all these costs? I mean, how does your methodology change?
If I'm being honest, if I looked out 12 months, I don't know if anybody would underwrite a deal right now.
Okay, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
What's your 2-week outlook? Right.
Everyone's worried about the next interest rate bump.
Right.
But essentially, deals that we were looking at, loans in the 4.5 to 5 range, we're underwriting in the 5.5 to 6 range for our money, depending on delivery timeline. If we're looking at more than a year and a half to start a construction, we're probably pushing an extra half point on that, figuring being conservative. If I'm going to look at a deal, it's got to underwrite to a 7 cap to a build rate. Otherwise, it just really doesn't make sense to look at it. 6 weeks ago, maybe 10 weeks ago, I think people were talking about underwriting to 5 caps especially on multifamily deals. So some of the bloom has come off of the exuberance that everybody had, the optimism that we were going to have a soft landing. But that's to be expected. And the advantage we have is, some staying power, in that we don't have to sell. We don't have to build a house. We can put projects to the side a little bit and go a little slower. And I think that's going to add clarity to this. I think the next Fed meeting is going to be very important to what people think and perceive as to the market. I think the Fed has been messaging that they're going to raise it a point to try to keep everybody a little bit on edge. Whether it gets there or not, someone's probably a better forecaster than me. But mortgage rates from a home building standpoint have ticked back down. The 10-year has come back down a little bit. Jumbo, a lot of stuff we build is in the jumbo mortgage price point. So we're seeing rates back below 5 again on 30-year jumbos. And it really wasn't that long ago when you look back when rates were above 5 or around 5, and that's 2019. They were there for a short period, but the world didn't end. People didn't stop buying houses. People didn't stop buying cars. And I'm old enough, unfortunately, to remember that anything under a 6% interest rate was considered a good deal for a very, very long time. So we're taking a long view, not taking a short view, and that long view I think is still optimistic. And in every downturn, there's a new opportunity, and I think there's a lot of things. If you step back and away from the immediate pressures people are feeling, there's reason to be optimistic on the long term. And maybe that's just me looking back at '08 and realizing that by the time 11, 12, 13 came around, and where we are today is a far cry from '08 and '09, when we all thought we wouldn't be building houses anymore.
And that perspective is so valuable in today's market, because we see a lot of people who don't have that depth of experience absolutely panicking, right, with the unknown. And I think your point that stay the course. There are challenges, of course, but this is not an upside down fundamental perspective like we had in '08. Very, very different situation. How much are rising rents playing into your underwriting? And are you still seeing rents going up on the multifamily and the industrial side?
So we are seeing rents rise on the residential side. There's still a lot of rent pressure. Most of our stuff is based in the Philly metro area where we're based out of, and rents continue to rise here. I think it's because there's still a demand issue, and good properties. We're basically A buildings are still sought after. So there's still rent increases, although they've tempered a little bit. New projects that we're looking at. I have a project that's starting out in the Montgomery County area in Bridgeport. We underwrote rents in the fall in the high twos, and we just did a market survey, and rents are pushed over 3. And that's a building we haven't even built yet. And that on a forward, the rents are even up above the low 3s at that point. So rents continue to rise, I think, in response to construction cost increases across the market. Industrial, I don't know yet. We haven't had a lease come back in or a deal that we're looking at for that standpoint on the industrial side. But anecdotally, I believe rents are continuing to push up, maybe not at the 12 to 15% year-over-year growth we were seeing. But the fact of the matter is my interest rate's up, my cap rate is up, and so my cost of money is higher, my cost of goods is higher, and the only way to offset that is with rent increases. And I think if you're in a saturated market or perceived as a saturated market, maybe you're going to see some rent flattening. I think if you have some product differentiation, we have a couple sites where we have height available, up to, in one case, 125 feet, in another case, almost 200 feet of height available for a warehouse space. If you're sitting like anything else with a uniquely situated asset, so if you're beachfront or bayfront, it's different than being inland. It's kind of the same thing. And that's really where we've looked and we've done a lot of work with properties that have zoning issues or other challenges, and we've solved those challenges. So we have properties sitting in good markets and good locations. And I think it differentiates us. And again, I don't have to rush to rent something or build something. But if there's a demand, we can certainly tap into that. And we have stuff that we can build and deliver in 2023 and early 2024. So, if there's a user or someone who needs something now, we can accommodate that, but we can also wait. And that's really been our business strategy over the years. Hopefully, a lot of the people we do business with weather this storm, and we just reset and realize that a 5.5 or 5 or 5 3/4 interest rate just isn't so bad. And there's always the opportunity to refi. Rates are good.
Exactly. This is not a fixed thing forever, right? They can come back down. I think that's important to remember too. That was great market intel. I really appreciate you sharing that with everyone. Is there anything personal, life hack, or a tip, anything that makes you extra productive that you'd like to share?
I thought about this when you asked me that, and there's a couple of things. I think there's 2 things really. The first was a long time ago, one of my clients said to me, you have 24 hours in a day. You have to spend time sleeping, spend time with family and people you love, do things for yourself, and the rest of the time you're working and making money. And you can choose to spend that time making big money or small money and use your time wisely. And so as you're looking at deals, it's kind of the same principle. Do I want to spend time on a 3-lot subdivision or a 100,000 square foot warehouse, or can I tie up a piece of ground for 300 lots and 3 million square feet? And there's only so many minutes in a day and so many meetings you can go to. So, and it's more true than ever now as this market becomes more competitive, because that's really what this is. You're going to have to be competitive to make it through, and competitive in your approach, competitive in your underwriting, competitive in your forecasting and your outlook. But if you spend that time on the deals that really make sense, that are in great markets and good locations, you're going to weather this storm. If you're chasing fringe stuff and you're reaching or you're stretching to underwrite it, you're probably going to have some impacts. So that was one. And the other one is, for anybody who tells you that you can't make it or you can't do it, ignore it. Persevere. Don't panic. take your time, take a deep breath. This will all pass. Everybody's got personal challenges, but on the business side, there's been ups and downs. And if you just, put your nose to the grindstone, so to speak, and really work through it, I think, we're all going to be on the other side of this. And what's going to seem like a long time from now, but when you look back, it's going to be a fairly short window. I think we're like this. And whether I'm right or wrong, that's always been my approach. It's done me pretty well so far. So to those of you who have not yet seen a 5.5% or 6% interest rate, and this seems like shell shock, I'm old enough to remember interest rates at 17 and 18%. So this all looks pretty normalized now. And I think that's really the key, is where we are today. It's probably more like normal,
right?
Than from a historical standpoint, more like a normal rather than a down or an up. It just seems down because we were so high before.
Right. It's important to keep it all in perspective and stay the course. I agree. I think there's amazing opportunity that's going to come in the next few years for all of us in the industry who just put our head down and keep looking for opportunity and don't panic. Couldn't agree more. Tony, that was incredibly valuable. Thank you for the market data. Thank you for your personal things that you shared on staying the course and staying productive. We very much appreciate it. It's wonderful to have you on the show. Great to see you again. And for anyone listening who would like to reach out to Tony, we'll make sure all of his contact information is in the notes below. That was Secret Sauce. I'm Karly Iacono. Thank you all so much for joining us. Tony, hope to see you again soon. Thanks again.
Hope to see you again soon. Thanks, Karly.